During the English Civil War, 1642 to 1651, France was not directly involved in the conflict but was significantly impacted by its developments. As a major Catholic power and a rival to Protestant England, France had its own interests at stake, particularly in the context of broader European politics, its relations with Spain and the ongoing 30 Years' War. France's involvement was more diplomatic and indirect, driven by a combination of strategic interests, alliances and the delicate balance of power in Europe. France's neutrality and diplomacy. France, under King Louis XIII and later Louis XIV, was embroiled in the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, during the English Civil War. The conflict in England was, therefore, of secondary concern to France, as its primary focus was on its ongoing war with the Habsburgs, particularly in Germany and the Low Countries. However, France was keenly aware of the war's potential impact on the European balance of power. Despite France's involvement in continental wars, the French monarchy maintained an official policy of neutrality in the English Civil War. However, France had a vested interest in the outcome of the conflict, as a stable England could potentially shift the power dynamics in Europe. For France, the instability caused by the war in England represented an opportunity to weaken its rival, Spain, and prevent the rise of a strong English power that could align with other Protestant states against French interests. Support for the Royalists and diplomatic maneuvering. Although France did not intervene militarily, there was some level of covert support for the Royalist cause, especially during the early stages of the war. The French court was sympathetic to King Charles I, seeing him as a fellow Catholic monarch facing a Protestant rebellion. The French saw the Royalists' fight as part of a larger Catholic cause against Protestantism, which was gaining strength across Europe, particularly in the Netherlands and England. France also provided diplomatic support to the Royalists, with some French diplomats actively seeking to bolster Charles I's position. France, through its strategic alliances with Catholic countries including Spain, was trying to protect its interests in the face of rising Protestantism, and supporting the Royalists in England aligned with this broader goal. However, this support was largely symbolic and indirect, as France had its own military priorities elsewhere. The impact of France's neutrality. Despite France's covert support for the Royalists, the nation's official neutrality meant that it did not engage directly in the war. This neutrality allowed France to continue its military engagements on the continent, particularly in the 30 Years' War, where the French were engaged against the Habsburgs in Spain and Austria. The stability of England during this period had limited impact on French military strategy, as France was more concerned with the success of its campaigns against the Habsburgs and the preservation of its influence in Europe. Additionally, French merchants were able to maintain trade with both the Royalists and parliamentarians, benefiting economically from England's internal conflict. French ships often played a role in the smuggling of supplies to both sides, although these actions were carried out discreetly and without official sanction from the French crown. Effects on post-war French relations with England. After the execution of King Charles I in 1649 and the establishment of the Commonwealth of England under Oliver Cromwell, France adjusted its diplomatic stance. Cromwell's republican government was met with caution by the French monarchy. Despite the official break between the monarchy and Cromwell's republic, France did not take immediate action against England but continued to monitor the situation closely. The French monarchy's decision to align with both the Royalist cause and the parliamentarians during the conflict was motivated by a desire to maintain influence over English affairs while ensuring that no single faction gained too much power. However, after the restoration of the monarchy under Charles II in 1660, relations between France and England began to evolve. Legacy and influence. France's involvement in the English Civil War had a lasting impact on both countries. While not directly involved in military action, France's diplomatic maneuvers during the war were driven by a desire to prevent the rise of a strong Protestant England that could challenge French power. The war contributed to France's understanding of the complex politics in England, and after the Restoration, France became an important player in English foreign relations, particularly during the reign of Louis XIV. The conflict also helped shape France's strategy of balancing power in Europe, as the French monarchy worked to prevent England from becoming a formidable rival in the Atlantic world. The aftermath of the English Civil War and the eventual Glorious Revolution of 1688 would see France and England continue their rivalry, which would culminate in a series of wars, including the Napoleonic Wars in the 19th century. In sum, France's role in the English Civil War was one of diplomacy and indirect support. The war's outcome would influence the future trajectory of both French and English foreign policy, laying the groundwork for a shifting power dynamic in Europe.